everyone and welcome back to my channel for another Make It Monday crafting video. Today I'm going to make an alternative Valentine's Day card. I like to send cards to my kids on Valentine's, but obviously I don't want a slushy pink and red hearted romantic one, so this is my sort of take on what I would give them. I've started off with a sheet or a piece of Barjar Breeze Stampin' Up cardstock and Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink, which I'm inking up this very large striped background stamp from Simon Said Stamp. It's the wide stripes background. When I first put the ink on, you noticed it was really blotchy, but that doesn't matter because the fabulous thing about using one of these stamp positioning tools is you can go back in and out and repeat the stamping process and build up that colour, which on a big thick bold stamp like this is invaluable. I bought this stamp before I bought my stamp positioner and it rarely got used until I had the stamp positioner to use it. Moving on, I've got the little cow from the Chubby Chums set by Paper Smooches. Stamped him on Nina Solar White 180 pound cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, so it's a Copic friendly ink, and I'm going in with my Copics, and I decided, as it was such a small area to colour, to just try and do a 2-colour blend, and as you can see that just wasn't going to work, so I had to bring in another colour, R83, just to make those blend a little bit better. So I've gone over that a couple of times until I've got the depth of colour that I like, and that works so much better. The eyes, these went a little bit wrong as well. I started off with a B00 and then went in with N02 and it just looked wrong, so I've scratched that, gone in with the darker blue and then back in with the B00, and they just look a little bit more, they don't look realistic at all, but for this they look better. And the problems didn't stop there, because now I've gone in, I wanted a white cow because he's got the black areas on him from the stamp, so I just thought I'd add some a warm grey and just sort of give a little bit of shadow, but I went a little bit overboard with the amount of ink that I put down and it just didn't look right to me. So I've gone back in and put a whole layer down with the W1, and then the W3 is now going to be my depth colour, putting in those shadows, and then I'll go back over it all again with the W1 just to blend the two together. And I now no longer have a white and black cow, but I have a sort of a grey black cow, and that will do for me. I've got this stamp set from Clearly Besotted called Party Time, and it's a 2-tone stamping set. So the base layer is the lighter tone that you want to use, and I've used Worn Lipstick, and this is the Distress Oxide inks. And then the second layer is going to be Picked Raspberry, and that just gives you that shading on the balloon without actually any colouring, and all the hard work is taken care for you. So I have the matching dies for the Chubby Chums set, but as you can see it's a solid die. So to get around die cutting my already stamped and coloured image, I don't want to mess that one up, so I'm going to cut the die out of a blank piece of cardstock, and then using the negative space line that up over my image, pop the die in, and you can feel the ridge where it's been cut, and then I just hold that down with some washi tape, run it through my die cutting machine, and it cuts out my little character perfectly. I don't have the matching dies for the balloon set, so I've had to fussy cut that out. My background piece still wasn't dry because Distress Oxide ink, being a pigment ink, they do take longer to dry, so I've used my heat tool just to speed up that drying process, and it's important that I've kept that in for the video, which you'll see a little bit later on. I'm going to die cut that panel now. I'm using Blueprints 13 large rectangle for my base to cut that out to go onto my base card, and then the Simon Says Stamp nested circles to cut a little window on the back. I always make sure I put my washi tape on the part of the cardstock that I don't end up using, just in case it does get stuck whilst it's going through my die cut machine. I would be mortified if I ruined all the work that I'd done so far. I've now got the Simon Says stamp, circle saying stamps. This one here has I love you in repeat all the way around in a circle. I've got a piece of Stampin' Up! Rich Razzleberry cardstock. I've applied my powder tool to it so as to avoid any static when I add my embossing powder. I am stamping it in Versamark ink and I'm using a white embossing powder. I'm going to heat this up with my heat tool, but before I bring it to the cardstock I'm going to warm it up a little bit so that it's not too cool. The longer you keep the heat tool to the card, the more chances you've got of it warping. I'm just wiping off any residue powder with my hands, making sure that it all fits together nicely, and then I'm using Ranger Multi-Matte Medium to stick the two layers together. Just thought I'd put a little bit around the inside of that circle so that it's all nicely stuck. Putting an acrylic block on top and then sticking some 3M foam tape onto the back of the little cow and the back of the balloon. This stuff's great, it tears nicely, you don't need to worry about scissors with it. Just putting all the elements on together now. I need a bit of string to attach my balloon to my little cow, otherwise it looks a bit silly, so I'm using some baker's twine that I've had in my stash for eons. Baker's twine came in really popular a good few years back and I bought a few bits and I've never actually really used it. My reverse tweezers come in very handy for this bit, so I've just done a double knot underneath the heart, snip off the excess, and now to stick it to the cow. This is something I probably should have thought about before I stuck the cow to the cardstock. So I'm just moving the string underneath the cow, and actually it's sticking quite nicely to the foam underneath, so that worked out quite nicely in my favour. Onto the base card, and I wanted to put a sentiment inside as I've got very little writing on the front, and the Chubby Chums set has a few little sentiments to go with each of the animals in the set, and this one is Smooches. Nice and corny and punny, but perfect for my kids. And then I've got a Simon Says stamp Big Thanks Words die, and that's where that little sentiment comes from, and it says this card is full of. And I just wanted to put the little cow in the bottom, but I've done second generation stamping, so he's a little bit paler than the full-on black from the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Now's where I got into a little bit of trouble. I've used my Ranger Multi-Matte Medium to put the card panel onto the card base, but because it's warped so much from where I was drying that panel to get the Distress Oxide ink dry, it's just not sticking. I've added more glue, I bring in an acrylic block to hold it down, that's when I noticed the other side isn't sticking properly, and I've just got to abandon it now. So I've gone for the trusty score tape, which is really good stuff, very, very firm holding, and that's just going to save my bacon on this one really and make sure I can get that card stuck nice and firmly to that panel. The only downside of using double-sided tape is there's no give. Once you've got it down, it's down. So my panel is not actually as central as I would like it to be, but it's just going to have to do because from start to finish this card has given me a few little hiccups. So I'm putting a little bit of Winker Stella on the balloon, but I've got to be careful because I don't want to activate the inks and lose that definition between the two colours. A few little drops of Nouveau drops in white, and I'm calling this one done for the day. Thanks for stopping by, hope you've enjoyed the card today. Click like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and we'll see you back here next Monday. Thanks very much, bye.